which is for the parish of FOGGATHORPE. I thought I might just explain how and why it is that we come about to be here. The starting point to it, I would say, is that where there was a young lady who lives in Gribthorpe who approached the parish council around about, amazingly, only I think 6 or 7 months ago, and she said, I have an idea that I think we should have for the parish of FOGGATHORPE, a community area, a community space for the parish. And she felt that this particular plot seemed to fit the bill. And I speak of Helen Gore over there. And I hope you think my description of a young lady is an entirely appropriate description. So that is really how it came about. So I think the first thing to say is that but for Helen, we would not be here. It is actually as simple as that, because she's the person who had the idea. She came to the FOGGATHORPE Parish Council. So the next thing that has to happen to get us into this situation is the FOGGATHORPE Parish Councillors have to provide some sort of support to the idea and then act on it. And the view that we took was that it seemed a good idea and something that we should look to try to move forward. But there are only 7 parish councillors for the whole of parish, which obviously covers FOGGATHORPE, Gribthorpe, Latham and Harthorpe. So we're only 7 people. So it's not for us to impose things on the residents, but to try to do what we think they want. So the next step was to send out a flyer to all residents of the parish explaining the idea we had and seeking views. As always with these things, as I'm sure you can probably imagine, we were not exactly inundated with expressions of opinion, but we didn't really think we would be. But you have to give people the chance. But one thing that I can say definitely did not happen is that we didn't have any responses to say, it's a ridiculous idea, what do you think you're playing at, you shouldn't be doing it. So we had nobody putting us off doing it, so we felt, well, we ought really to see if we can move this forward. And this land, as probably most of you know, is in the ownership of the East Riding of Yorkshire Council. So clearly the first thing that would have to happen is that we would have to have the permission from the East Riding of Yorkshire Council to actually occupy and use the land. So our clerk, Steve Young, who I think we can all agree is a superb clerk, and we're very fortunate to have him as our clerk, then entered into some correspondence with East Riding, which I don't think I'll go into the full details of some of the type of letters that came back from it, but the upshot of this was that they were willing potentially to consider a request from the parish for a lease. One of the things that would have to happen in order for that to happen was that the current tenant, Charles, who I don't think so,
he's here yet.
Is here.
He intends to come, I know that.
Well, didn't want to delay this welcome. But Charles, again, as some of you will be aware, had the tenancy of this land. So again, this could not have happened without the support of Charles. So whilst it would be nice if he's here and could hear us all thanking him, when he does arrive, we should all thank him. Oh, he's here. He's here. So I was going to say we could give him a standing ovation. We're all standing in. It's an easy thing to do. But we should applaud Charles, because there is no doubt that but for Charles's support on this, we wouldn't be here. It wouldn't have been possible. So Charles has been incredibly supportive of this. So there was a lot of people who I'd like to thank. I've thanked Helen and Charles already. I'd also
Here he comes.
Wait for them to come around.
They also cut the grass for us as well.
So I was going to come on to that. So brilliant. That is brilliant timing, Charles, because I was just saying a few words and I got to the point where I was saying that there are a few people without whom we wouldn't be here, and you are one of them. And we were just about to break into applause for you until you weren't actually here. So now he's here. Can we give him a round of applause?
Hooray!
All the job is done, and as John has said, for cutting this and preparing it for tonight as well. So huge appreciation for all that Charles has done. I would like to express thanks to all my fellow parish councillors, who I think do a great job and have the interests of the parishioners very much at heart. There are other people who we would like to thank who supported this. I've mentioned our clerk Steve Young. I don't think we would have got to this stage without her. The timing of arrivals is amazing.
Oh, look.
So, I was just going to, I haven't got a signal for people to come in, but I was next going to be saying thanks to Councillor Victoria Aitken. Without her support, also, I think we wouldn't be here, because as we all know, I've touched on it briefly, and hopefully reasonably subtly, the bureaucracy that has to be dealt with at the East Riding, which Victoria's well aware of, but she helped us to get through the minefield of that, I would say. And in particular, organised a meeting which some of us went to in Gaul, and in that regard I'd also want to thank Theresa Gale, who I think is away at the moment and not been able to be here, but she should be thanked for the assistance that she gave in liaising with East Riding to get us to the point where we are. And, of course, we should thank East Riding, because I suppose it's very easy to be critical of local authorities, but ultimately they have come good. They have provided us with a lease. I think we've still got to get it back signed by them, but we're 99% there.
I've already signed 3.
Right, thank you, but I think we're pretty much there, so thanks to them as well. And in particular, since this idea has come about and it's looked like it's actually going to happen, it has been possible for some, I would say, just clearance work to be done in this area. And I don't know how many of you have been down maybe a few months ago and seen what it was like, and then seen it changing a bit over the last few months. Hopefully you feel for the better. Well, that is really down to Helen once again, and to Terry, I'm not sure where everybody is, and to Terry over there, and to Sheila, because the 3 of them have been down here on a very regular basis, just grafting in essence. So huge appreciation to them. And a very big thank you to all of you who've come along, because a sort of community place like this is obviously dependent upon people supporting it. And what we're particularly keen, and Parish Council, to do is to know your views. What would you like this to be? Because although the Parish Council has signed the lease, because there's no other organisation that could sign it, really it's not the Parish Council, as I see it, it's the parish's meadow. It's for every resident here. So we're very keen, and feel free to come up to me or any of the other parish councillors during tonight, just with any ideas or comments that you have on it, so that we can try and tailor it in a way that best suits what everybody wants. So I think I've hopefully covered everything that I need to cover. Unless anybody wants me to just outline our own thoughts at this stage.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. And also maybe
there is a
future Monday night
bit of a plan, yeah, because I appreciate some of you will be aware, and some of you may not be aware. And I stress, we had to provide a plan to East Riding in order for them to consider this. So we couldn't just say, well, we don't know yet, because we haven't liaised with the residents. We had to come up with something of ourselves. What we came up with, there's a plan here which obviously you're welcome to come and have a look at, but the idea we had were orchard in this area, so there's already an apple tree down there anyway, so more planting of fruit trees in here. Then we would envisage that there would be a barbecue in this area, which residents can just come and use, and there'll be some seating. For that we need planning permission, so we can't do that until we get planning, so we have to apply to the East Riding for planning permission. For a few of the other things we don't need planning permission, but we do for that, so that'll take a little bit of time, but that's the idea there. The plan is roughly, I would say, where the buttercups start, so fairly central, visible from the entrance, we'd be planning to plant a Christmas tree, which John White is kindly going to be organising. And I should mention that our clerk, Steve Young, has already put in applications for grants to cover the costs of these things. So I think he's pretty confident we can get the cost of the tree being planted as well. That's due to happen in November, I think, isn't it?
That's right. It's too late for this season,
the
so
correct time for planting, and obviously in time. So I think one of the thoughts we had is that we should definitely have some form of Christmas carols around the Christmas tree in December. So that, I think, is pretty much definitely going to happen. We thought in this area here that potentially we could have some raised vegetable beds for people. We want to try and keep it as informal as possible. I mean, I'm conscious that occasionally you can have allotments which are provided with the best of intentions to people, and sometimes you get these sort of wars going out where somebody says, oh, you've nicked my courgette. We don't want that sort of thing. We want a community where people are just pleased to put a few seeds in and share what they produce with. That's what we want to create here. And in that area, we were just thinking the other day when we were down here, possibly some more tree planting. We've always got to be careful of the lines, poles.
it's a sore point.
You know, that we don't plant directly underneath them. But subject to that, some more trees. We want to keep it as natural as possible, because one or two people have commented, you know, they don't want us to spoil the natural look of this. They don't want it to be sort of full of concrete and lots of stuff. So we've taken that on board, and we don't want that either. One thing we think may be desirable, but just to try and have some sort of area where people can play football, kids can play football, maybe volleyball, if there's a demand for it. So that's the sort of thing. We had originally thought about a pond in that area, but we had a little bit of feedback from people with young children. They wouldn't be keen on that for safety reasons. Again, we've taken note of what they've said there, but we are open to suggestions. This is just a plan that we had to provide because we had to come up with something for the East Riding. It's not cast in stone. Anything can be changed, and any feedback is welcomed. We'll take it on board. We have a meadow committee which will probably meet in another few weeks to review ideas and take it on from there. So I hope that's enlightened you. I've just wanted to ask the parish councillors to introduce themselves if they could, just so people know, if you do want to make any comments, who we are. So Sean Pinchback, John
Jane
Guy,
Priestley.
John White,
John Rayward, Mark Weatherall,
and I think that, yes, and
Charles.
and then Helen, perhaps make yourself known. Not already.
it's one of the helpers.
And also heavily involved in this is Sheila, introduce yourself, and Terry over there. So feel free really to approach any of us with any questions or any thoughts, ideas that you have. They'd be greatly received. So thank you very much for your patience listening to me, and there's plenty of wine left. Thank you very much.